listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. This is not a happy hour. Coming to you from the kitchen studios high atop downtown Raleigh, telling the food and beverage stories from inside the bottle, on the farm and at the kitchen. I am the butler, Keely motherfucking Wagner, and here's your host, Max Trujillo! Wow.
Hello, and thank you for listening. Oh my God.
It just got edged up a little.
Thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your host, Max Trujillo. We got...
What's going on, everybody? Stephen Such in the house. Holler.
Stephen Such brought a lot of whiskey into this room, so we got to say thank you to Stephen Such. But this is night 5. This is the last day of This Is Not a Happy Hour again, in year 2 of its happy hour inception. And today, for drinks and for food, we brought in some excellent friends to kind of finish out the week. For one, we'll start with food. The Pops is not in the room right now because he's chilling.
He's chilling. He had a little bit too many of those drinks that my man was making up over there. So he watched me do all the work, right?
But you know,
enjoy.
The voice you're hearing right now is Ryan Mitchell and his pops, Ed Mitchell. Both put down just crazy barbecue for everyone to enjoy.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much for doing that.
Thank you, man, for having me.
Yeah, so they're obviously opening up the preserve soon. They were on a recent podcast on the show about a month ago, and we're getting ready for all of that. But on the other side, we also have an upcoming establishment about to open up called Killjoy with our buddy over here, Zach Thomas. Say hello, friend.
Hi.
Seemed very awkward on that microphone. Just speak right there. That's all you gotta do.
Where it is?
Yeah.
Got it. This thing? Oh, got it.
And former guests of the show and also beer providers tonight. We have the married duo, Sarah Abernethy and Chris Borison. Hello. Say hello.
Hey, y'all.
And Miss Sarah Thor, you've been on the podcast before in the great 2-part series with the Whiskey Kitchen. You came in, you're hanging out, chilling. Say hello.
Hello. I'm excited to be next to my friend here, Ryan. We have a fun backstory.
Absolutely, man.
Oh, we're about to get into that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in the back over here, our chef of the kitchen, Chef Bobby McFarland. What's up, dude?
Hey, how you guys doing? It's good to be here.
Awesome having you back.
Perfect. I don't know why I feel like I'm addressing the audience, but there's so many people in the room. I just don't know who to talk to right now.
It's kind of like we have an audience all in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Terrence Caulfield. Terrence, the master of the field of cauliflower.
Ooh.
That's what his last name means.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's like Caulfield is
I
like
highly doubt that.
Cabbage Patch.
Cabbage Patch.
Or next to a Cabbage Patch.
Terry Cabbage Patch.
Cabbage Patch.
It's great to see you again.
Hello.
Wow.
And Lydia Santogad.
Yeah, that's
Hello.
correct.
You could get a little closer to the microphone.
Hello, all.
And Lydia works for my lovely wife Felicia at Food Scene and does some excellent work out there on the social medias. So we got a big room here, and we're still going because we kind of kicked off like a little after party with our friends over at Lady Luck. They're going to start throwing down some food and some drink too. But this is like a little halftime show, and to say hello and kind of talk for a bit. So. Without further ado, I want to know, what is this backstory between Sarah Thor and Ryan Mitchell? What's going on there?
Well, we actually just met, but
Perfect.
yeah. So, but I do have many years ago. How many years ago was it that you guys did the?
We're pushing 7 years now.
7 years. So,
7 years.
yeah. So Mike Thor, owner of Whiskey Kitchen, my husband, went with Ed and Ryan and Boda, who was the chef. Boda
John
opened
Boda,
up our kitchen, Whiskey Kitchen. They went up to New York to do the Big Apple Barbecue Block Party together, and they had an epic time and an epic story. I feel like I was there because I kept hearing about how amazing that experience was for him, and I have a picture in the house of the 4 of them together. Oh wait, the 5 of, I don't know, I can't count. 5. There's 5 of you.
Nice.
And it is one of my favorite pictures depicting who Mike is prior to accident, and just what his work ethic was like, and getting dirty and running hogs down the streets in New York City. And yeah, so it's really
That's
nice
awesome.
I just got a picture of the 3 of them together. So.
Mike cracked me up because he's texted me to get up here. He came here by himself, and of course, for those that don't know, Mike is in a wheelchair and doesn't have a lot of use of his arms and legs.
Yeah.
But he's really good at texting, which is pretty badass, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's texting me. He's like, "Yo, bro, I'm downstairs. Let me in."
Let me in.
I'm like, "I'll be right down." And then as I'm going down the elevator, he's like, "I'm on 5." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Some guy was being nice and he clicked a button for me. He thought I said 5. I meant 4. So now I'm just on a floor that I'm lost." So I had to go get him. It was great, but it's fun. And I was like, "You roll down here all by yourself?" He's like, "Yeah, Sarah will be here later." But this guy does so much that you wouldn't think, like, on his own. And
literally one of my favorite stories. You
Yeah.
know, man, just I don't want to get too emotional about it, but just the inspiration behind how we didn't even really know each other. You know what I mean? I got a call from a closer friend of mine, Jay Boda, and he knows, the Big Apple Block Party is a really intense, labor-intense weekend for us. We go through like 120,000 people, 30 hogs in a weekend. And the labor. We just
sorry, Mike, as the vegan in the room.
Smoke 10 whole hogs a day for 3 days. And so, Thor's 125 pounds soaking wet?
Yeah, about that.
About. So
I think it's more like 150. I feel like I gotta
150?
go ahead and
he's bulking up. He was bulking up back then. But I got a call. Bo's like, "Yeah, man, I got us a extra guy who wants to help us out, man. If you down." I was like, "Yeah, man, we need help for sure." So invite him up to New York. He tags along with us. And when I first saw him, I was like, "Dude, you got like." I thought you was gonna bring some beef. Like we carrying whole hogs for the whole weekend. We don't need,
just scrawny little guy.
Who's you bring a kid? We need somebody to help. What are you doing? He's like, "Trust me, man. He go hard." I was like, "All right, if he go hard, I trust you." Lo and behold, man, this kid, I don't even call him a kid, but this young man spent 3 days just working his absolute behind off. Like couldn't get him to stop. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, just
He loved
relentless. And for me, and like for my dad, we just always encouraging people to come, and you want to get a part of what's going on. We always encourage people, no matter, we don't even know their background. Sometimes we just know they want to work hard, come help us out. It's okay. So, but you never know a person's story. You never know what a person is into, and what their dreams are, what their ambitions are. And so for him to be up there working like that and still have a story that he was, getting ready to, pursue his own dreams in the restaurant business, and he's up there acting like a janitor, a peasant, just wanting to work.
He just does the job. That's
just
what
doing the job.
That's what someone that opens their own place realizes.
There was nothing that we asked him to do that he wasn't already down to do already, and just working his behind off. And so to see him still, exuding that.
And it's so good to have him back in this community, like through all the rehabilitation.
Sure.
Now he's back, and now like he's back in the sense that wherever I go, I see him out and about. He's just doing shit. It's like, I don't know too many guys in chairs in general, but if I did know more guys in chairs, I don't see them hanging out at like bars, clubs, pop-ups, just events, and he's out there. He's just doing it. So
all my chefs who have these bullshit stories about, "Oh, today was a hard day," I don't feel like, I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna show you something." Pull up this guy on my Instagram and show you. And we just tell he's probably known way more than what he thinks he is, because I've told 1,000 stories using him as an example.
Yeah.
It's like, this dude in a wheelchair right now, but let me scroll back a minute. This is what he did, in the weekend. They don't even know, but he's
so
just
cool,
a good
man.
point of reference.
So cool. Well, let's keep this going over here. Mr. Zach Thomas, bartender extraordinaire. For one, you brought the flair tonight. I mean, seriously, to the room. Like, did he not just bring like a show with him?
So good. I complimented the blazer immediately. It was stellar.
Sarah,
he said he fought somebody for it.
Sarah, describe what he's wearing right now.
He has on it's a zebra print velvet. Is it velvet?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. I think it's some kind of a crushed velvet, but shiny black and gold zebra print blazer, and I'm gonna steal it.
It put up a fight. The zebra itself, it didn't go down easy.
Oh, you fought the actual animal. I was like, what? Person in the. Where did you find that?
Well, let it be known that like when you came by last week just to kind of show you the space and all that, he had the sweetest man bun. I was like waiting for him to pull a samurai sword out. Like,
I've been watching a lot of The Last Samurai, so Tom Cruise is really big for me. You know, flair bartending, samurai movies.
I don't think I've ever heard a man bun described as sweet.
We didn't see his
honey bun.
It's a honey bun. I didn't see it. Yeah.
So, will you tell us? Okay, so you're about to open up Killjoy. Now, you had worked with Scott Crawford at Crawford and Son for a few years. You worked at Foundation for a good while as well. Mm-hmm. But you also—I didn't realize this. I think Stephen Such was telling me that you're from the JoCo, right?
No, I'm actually from Hillsborough Street, Raleigh.
You're from Hillsborough Street?
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone was actually from there.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us left anymore.
But you spent time down in Johnson County as well?
I did. I helped open a place out there called Revival.
We know it well. They've been on the podcast. We love them.
Nice. Yeah. Good people.
Yeah, so, okay, so now cutting up to today, you're about to open up your own place called Killjoy. It's going to be on West Street next to Clouds Brewing?
Correct.
Yeah. Tell us what that's going to be like. What's the feel?
So there's a really fun story for the inspiration of the name Killjoy. My father is also a bartender. He actually grew up bartending at different places up and down Hillsborough Street, and he absolutely hates cocktails, like loathsome. So
where did he bartend?
So he's a bartender.
He is a bartender. He's actually a sober bartender as well. He bartended at Sadlacs, Crowley's, Pantana Bob's, like all the good spots. So I told him I was trying to open a cocktail bar, and his exact response was, "Well, damn, I hope you enjoy being a full-time Killjoy, because that fucking sucks." It just resonated.
Wow. You know? So you're a sober bartender? I didn't know that.
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years
2
sober.
years sober, and you're opening a bar.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, man.
Thanks.
Kudos to you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Super fun.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic in itself. Yeah. That's so the temptation of drinking and all that around others and making all the drinks. That's fine. You're cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have an issue with it. I love people and I love the nightlife, so I just recognize it. For me, I think sobriety is very much a spectrum. There's a bunch of people that absolutely cannot have a drink, and I respect that. I also attend this group called Ben's Friends at Crawford and Son every Sunday, which is a fantastic resource for folks that are struggling with substance abuse. But so for me, I've been able to recognize the reasons why I consumed alcohol. And I'm able to recognize booze as more of like a food allergy. There's that age-old joke amongst the sober community where they say, I'm allergic to alcohol because I break out in handcuffs. It's kind of very, very punny.
What do my buddies say? Man, he's like, I hate cocaine because I love cocaine. He's like, I just love the smell of it.
That's another one.
Yeah. So when you say that, are you saying that so truth be told, we recently had John Seelbinder on the show, who's also known as a sober restaurateur, and he does a lot of bars and such, like Architect and Little City Brewing, who also provided us beer tonight. So kudos to him. He was on our podcast last week. I actually cut a significant amount of the podcast because I went on this crazy rant about something, and then I got friends of the show to listen to it before I released it and said, is this good for the community or is this bad? And so I'm just going to say it again now. So we're talking to a guy that's sober, and I said, so my friend who had a serious cocaine and alcohol problem, he did a lot of high-profile things, went on tour with really, really high-profile bands like the Deftones and Van Halen and Katy Perry.
Who?
And just and even the Jonas Brothers too. But he was my. So now you know. Now I brought you back in the fold. He is totally sober of those chemicals now, but has no problem smoking weed. And he's like, I can smoke weed because weed has never thrown me in jail. Weed has never ended a relationship. Weed has never made me have to panhandle for money. He's like, so I'm cool with that. And I'm kind of cool being whatever you call that. Maybe I'm not straight, total sober, but it works for me. Yeah. So we had the conversation. We talked about it for a bit, but lo and behold, as the podcast went out, it was long anyway, so I'm looking for some parts to cut. It was like, well, maybe this isn't a good message to send because we also had Steve Palmer on recently who talked about, famously also a sober person, and Ben's Friends came up. And I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that's telling everyone, oh, be sober, but then also if you want to smoke weed, smoke weed. But I'm kind of saying that. And is there some truth to that?
It's a very common topic that comes up around the table at Ben's Friends. And, I personally do not partake, but alcohol was always a distraction for me. It always kind of took my ability to focus on my life, and it served to distract me from actually dealing with my responsibilities. So weed for me is always just another distraction. So I'm actually
makes
able
all the
to
sense in the world how you process it, how you think about it. So I'm not going to ask you to partake in the whiskey that Stephen brought tonight, but if you are willing, Mr. Such, to share with some of us that are in this room. I'm sure everyone, I see those thirsty eyes all around.
Now, so I have a question for you.
Also
Can I
yes,
ask a question? So how do you wind down for the day? Like, I would say, truthfully, as much owning a bar, I'm still not a huge drinker.
Yeah.
I find that I would rather like have a little smoke as kind of my glass of wine for the end of the day. What do you do?
You know, so the wonderful thing about me working in cocktail bars for so long is when I get into a situation in which I get off at 11 o'clock, I feel like I have the whole world in front of me. So I actually go out to other bars. I really, really, really love bar culture. I love nightlife. I think people are really in their truest forms when they're out like that and they're trying to have a good time. That's my inspiration for opening a bar itself.
Yeah.
But for me, I just I enjoy being around the people I care about, which tend to be bartenders that are behind the bar until 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And then I go home and I'll probably grab a bunch of fast food on the way home and watch some Netflix, pass out with my dog. But you know the usual stuff.
Yeah.
You're just not drunk.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds all very familiar.
Yeah.
I just want to say, as a pit master, there's days that I, go meatless. You know what I mean? Which is not as impressive as this conversation. But
Yeah.
my vegetable barbecue sauces as a meat connoisseur are not always received. In the same light from my peers. So
I understand what you got to say.
it's totally impressive.
If you own a restaurant and are looking for mobile and online ordering, give eHungry a try. They work with thousands of restaurants and charge ridiculously low fees. So let your customers order online for carryout, delivery, catering, and more. Get free setup and a 60-day free trial by visiting ehungry.com/NCFB. That's ehungry.com/NCFB.
This segment is brought to you by our brand new sponsor, the Folks Foundation. They are champions of all good things crafted in North Carolina and the folks that make them. And so for you, as a listener, you can sign up and become a member of the Folks Foundation. As a member, you are directly supporting makers, growers, crafters, and artisans of North Carolina, from the mountains to the sea. And when you support, you are benefiting handcrafted culture in our state that directly affects our lives every single day, from local products that we eat to the music and podcast production we listen to every day. But membership packages include a subscription to the Folks Journal, discounts to their general store, which has amazing products online, and access to exclusive content. So visit them at folksfoundation.org or check the link on our show notes in the podcast. That's the Folks Foundation.
I love that question. I think it depends on the day also. Do you
sure.
feel that way too? Like, some days are more active than others.
Yeah.
Some days you come out of it energized, some days you come out of it like
defeated.
Yeah, it just depends on the day.
Yeah.
This is Sarah Abernathy talking, just so listeners know.
Oh, hey y'all.
But yeah, right. Everybody's got a different way to wind down, and it's not easy. Mm-hmm. But it does feel like there is a need to do that in this industry, no matter what pick your poison, whatever, if it's Taco Bell or cocaine. It's those are the two things.
It's true. You're on. You're on for so long that sometimes it's like, okay, I'm still on. Now, how do I buzz down?
Turn down.
How do I turn down?
Turn down for what? Because
keep it going.
You take on a lot of personal responsibility. There's a lot of part-time therapists that are unofficial therapists. There's barbers, cab drivers, and bartenders.
Totally.
So you actually take on hairdressers.
But I think there's a big difference between people who have identified it as a problem or something that they want to work on versus those of us who just want to turn down in the evening. And it's the same thing with food. I didn't. I love meat, but that's just because I have such a respect for the art of butchering food and farming and things of that nature. So because of that, I had to take some of the meat out of my diet, and some of it was physical. And so if you identify a problem that you want to work on, it could lead you, it's just a different emotion versus
no doubt at all.
I need to chill versus
everything
I need
in
to fix a
moderation,
problem.
right?
Well, I'm going to switch subjects just a little bit. So we did get a little bit of bourbon on that topic. Right?
This is really
We did get a little bit of bourbon switched around for a second. And Mr. Such, last year you brought 2 little vials of excellent bourbon, and you're like, hey man, this is just for you if you want to try it. Here you go. And it was over the top. You are a fine collector of bourbon, so you brought some with you tonight here to the studio, so we could all imbibe on something. What are we about to taste here?
Sure. So, first off, shout out to the homie Zach. When him and I worked together at Revival, he's the one that hit bird call and everything. He's the one that got me into appreciating craft cocktails, spirits, flavor profiles, and then I bit the bourbon bug when I was working at Revival. So I've been collecting for a good several years now. But I'm part of a local group, Raleigh Bourbon and Banter, and this was a private pick we were able to do with Wild Turkey. It's Kentucky Spirits, one of their brands in their portfolio. Picked it a couple years ago, so to me it's real easy drinking. Sweet on the front, just a very subtle heat as you throw it down, and the finish is real soft. So so I figured, this is a local podcast. This was done by a local group, so let's keep it local.
Love it. I'm excited. Wild Turkey.
What'd you say, Sarah?
Like, let's open a place and call it Subtle Heat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just lock it in now, right
Mild
now,
humidity.
right here. Subtle heat.
Humidity
I like
Junior.
it.
Well, Sarah, that was actually the transition question I was going to ask. Is opening a place? You opened a place with your beautiful man next to you.
He is a beautiful man.
I know that because you put posts on Instagram all the time, pictures of him, and say, "Isn't he so beautiful?"
I do.
Like all the time. It's like every 9 pictures, it's a picture of Chris and with a tag of, "Look at how handsome he is."
Aw.
So, aside from your love affair, how's it going over at Y Hill? We opened this place up in the summer, and you guys have been running it from there. Like, now you're restaurateurs. What are your thoughts at this point?
Oh man.
Take a breath.
Oof. Here's what I say to everyone that asks me this question. Number 1, we're still married. Number 2,
That's good.
we still like each other.
So.
And it is no joke opening a business with your spouse. I think Sarah Thor can back me up on that.
Parents.
Parents, family, you know?
Yeah. But where we are right now, we are so excited for spring and summer. We have so many exciting things coming down the line. And I think Raleigh is definitely ready for spring and summer too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This city is so weather dependent. I've been a few different cities. I know everyone here probably has traveled to other cities, hopefully. It really is one of those cultures around here. Like, if you have a patio, that's what's up. People want to be outside. They want that outdoor dining experience, and that makes this place very weather dependent. So it can be challenging in some of those winter months. You have to, re-strategize and like, what do you do?
Well, like day to day, Jeff, who I met on Monday at This Is Not a Happy Hour on Monday, said you could have one snowstorm on a weekend in February and it could like totally knock your plans for the whole month out of the park, and then you have to be flexible.
Can you imagine if it snowed on Valentine's Day? How deafening, like how horrible that would be?
No, it's
I'll
real.
tell you what, we actually had an incredible Valentine's Day.
I just said that out loud, and it's going to happen next year.
It might,
Thanks, Max.
but it was kind of a shitty weather on Valentine's Day. I don't know if you guys remember, but we had this puppy adoption event. So we called it Puppy Love, and so you find your forever love with whiskey, obviously, and it was a great event. People loved it, but like that's the only thing on Valentine's Day that I'd really want to go to.
Amazing.
Cheers to the kitchen for doing another Not a Happy Hour. How about that?
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll give myself kudos at the end. It's fine. We'll get there. But Bobby McFarland, Chef Bobby McFarland, we know each other well. We see each other all the time. You've been working on a great coffee shop concept right now, doing all the food for them. Yep. Give a shout out to Jet Plane if you'd like.
So I'm working on a coffee shop concept. The owner, Darren Berlin, he was Counterculture Coffee's first employee ever. And he's finally broken away from the coffee consulting business to create his dream restaurant. He calls it a restaurant disguised as a coffee shop. It's going to be in Durham, just by Old 5 Points, pretty close to downtown proper, and we're hoping to open in the summer.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
It's great. I feel like every person I've talked to in Durham is dying right now to open something, and they're getting stopped like by so much regulation and chaos. I remember there was a time where I had just left Midtown Grill because I thought I'd be opening with Matt Kelly at St. James, and I was stoked, and I wanted to do it so bad, and his build-out just took too long, and he even told me, because he's much wiser than I am, don't quit your job, please. Like, I can't start paying you because the restaurant's going to pay you when it's open for business, so don't quit. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then just, you start feeling it. I actually just released the podcast, and it was like, I'm just gonna go without a net. And then of course it took way too long, and so I needed a job, and that's what led me to Standard Foods. I worked there for a short amount of time. Yeah. But also I think like with all that chaos becomes opportunity, because then it made me take everything that I'm doing more serious, and I've been able to carve out a business in some sort of sense, whatever the hell I'm doing, whatever it is. But so maybe they'll figure that out too and get there. But I also wanted to talk to you, Bobby, because you were involved recently in a competition, the Cooking for a Classic.
Yeah.
You were a sous chef for our good buddy and former guest of the show a couple times, Mr. Blake Gottliff, who I worked with at Standard Foods, and you were his sous chef.
And he's just one of those guys you want to support in every facet, because he just does so much for the community. His ideology is great. He grows a lot of his own food. He buys whole animals. He treats them with respect. He rolls stock. He makes charcuterie. He just uses every last part of the animal.
Yeah, Blake, of course, has Under the Oak Farm restaurant out there in Smithfield.
Yeah.
Smithfield, Johnston County, and he hung out with us like days before Christmas. We did an episode with him and Matt. We were just kind of
was Megan there too?
Being bros. It was just us.
Okay.
But the first time we had Blake on the podcast, it was just him. And then he came in to re-edit a part of the show, and he brought Megan in with him.
Always the perfectionist.
And it was, we released on a Thursday. He came in on a Tuesday. Megan was about to give birth. They said what they had to say. It was actually about sobriety, and he was trying to give love to services that really help out for chemical dependency and all. And he's like, what I said on the original podcast wasn't perfect, and I'd like it to be right because it's important. Mm-hmm. So let me come back. And he did. It was at my house when we used to do it in my basement. And Megan gave birth the very next day. That's how pregnant she was. But he's an excellent guy. He's in sobriety as well. He's sober. But he asked you to be the sous chef, and you guys won your first round.
Yep.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And
then we lost to Chef Kevin from 4100 in a very close match a couple days ago.
And now Chef Kevin is moving on to the next round, the final round.
Yeah.
And who's he going up against?
This restaurant called Y Hill Kitchen and Brewing. Awesome place.
Wait a minute. I think I know them.
Wait, is that the restaurant that you consulted on making the menu?
Yeah, I had something to do with it.
Yeah, that's right. Sweet. You're talking about the two that are sitting here in this room. That is excellent. So yes, Chef Kyle Fletcher just won last night on this timeline, and at this point we already know who the winner is, but this episode won't come out for 2 weeks, so we think Kyle won, but we don't know.
We're hopeful?
Yeah, we're hopeful.
Oh, he won.
So we'll know. There'll be like a big edit. Kyle, this is who really won. Hey, it's producer Max, just giving you an update on Cooking for a Classic. Kyle Fletcher actually won that round, went to the finals, and unfortunately did not win, though Chef Kevin Smith from 4100 at the Renaissance Hotel took home the Corvette. So kudos to him. And Kyle, badass you, man, taking it all the way to the finals. Good luck next year. It's super cool. It's an awesome competition just for fun. It makes it fun for chefs in this region. Anyways.
Supports a great cause, the Lucy Daniel Center. Shout out to them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this now comes the time where everyone can thank me for pulling you all together.
Max, thank you
so
much.
Here we
go. Enough about Max. Can I just interject one more time? I'm sorry. I want to give a quick shout out to Steve Such and Terry here. They support so much in this local food industry, and just as somebody who's contributed as a chef, a cook, whatever, honestly, it makes it so rewarding seeing people actually appreciate what we do, and they spend their own money and they come to these things, and it means the world to me. So and to more than just me and my other fellow cooks. Yeah, the community.
Yeah.
So thank you, Terry. Thank
Now I
you,
wish
Steve.
I was standing next to you.
Yeah.
We'll hug after the episode. But no, I try to take the mentality is, you guys do such a great job of taking care of patrons. And every time I go into an establishment, whether it be a cocktail bar, restaurant, whatever the case is, it's like, you guys take care of us, but who's taking care of you all? So I'm happy to spend my dollar in my backyard to support the hard work you do, and knowing it's twofold, that you source ingredients from local artisans, local farmers, bartenders using local spirits, etc. So, no, man, keep crushing, all y'all.
The love in this industry. We just all love each other.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you to the listeners that support this show and come in here. This whole idea of doing This Is Not a Happy Hour is obviously just a little wink at our state, because we can't discount booze at any particular time of the day. So thus we can't have like a certain time of day where drinks are half off. I used to make my nut as a bartender in Los Angeles from the hours of 4 to 7. I'd probably bring in like $150 just during those 3 hours, and then the rest of the night still kill it. And it afforded me to have a great life. And on top of that, I worked it so that as a good bartender, and you would know this as well, Zach, that you make sure that you connect people. You'd be like, hey, Sarah, oh, you're in this business? You got to meet Ryan because he's in this business. You two should talk. Boom. Chris, come over here, blah, blah, blah. Everyone starts getting involved. They network. They have a great time. And it's not like the reason we're not doing this is like an old, stupid rule from like the 1920s where they didn't want to encourage people to have this devilish thing called the alcohol and during drive time, right? But it's like, we're allowed to drink whenever we want. So let us just be adults and drink when we think we should drink and have everything in moderation. But the more important idea is it brings people together. It brings a network and a collective like we did this week. And this is proof that this is why we should just have things like a happy hour. It's why we should be connected more, because thoughts and opinions, expressions, love, all that stuff gets shared all at one time. And this has been amazing. So I appreciate you all being here. Thank you again. Let's have a great night. And as Matt would say, eat and drink merrily.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.